Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our weekly lunch and learn with the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. My name is Catherine Balzowski, and I am a Assistant Attorney General here at the Economic Community Development Unit at the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. I've worked with the nation for over 10 years now, and I'm very happy to be seeing you all this afternoon. For today's lunch and learn topic, we are going to be discussing voter registration. One of the areas of work that we do here at the Economic Community Development Unit is we help advise and assist the nation in voting matters related to state and federal voting. So if you are a tried and true listener to these lunch and learns, you may have seen me before talk about some state and voting issues in the past, and we thought that with the voter registration season here in full swing in all of our states, that it would be great to, and with some recent changes to the laws, it'd be great to kind of start going through how to register to vote. And in particular today, be looking, kind of deep diving a little bit into some recent changes in Arizona and just how the voter registration process in Arizona works, so that you guys can all get your voter registration done with no problems and be a seamless process. So, just to kind of talk a little refresher, reminder, the work here at DOJ in regards to state and voting issues. We do a lot of work in regards to assisting our tribal leaders and advising them on issues regarding state and federal voting. So this is elections that occur that are run by our state partners. So both the state of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah all are in charge of overseeing elections for both state offices and federal offices. And this is different than our Navajo Nation elections that are run by our Navajo Election Administration. So on the Navajo Nation, we have the pleasure of working with two different election offices. We work both with our state partners and with our Navajo partners. The work of the Navajo Nation Department of Justice does a lot with our state partners. So we're under our leadership of Attorney General Branch, under her last administration and this administration. Voting has always been, I think, a big priority for her. And during her last administration, she helped the nation get a settlement with the counties in the state of Arizona to address some issues that we were seeing at that time at the polling places. So under our current administration, we still have that same directive, and we are still trying to work really hard to address issues when they come up. So just something to note, that while we are working here to try to provide information so that you guys do have an easy time at the ballot box, we are also very eager to hear feedback from Navajo voters and your experience as state and federal voting issues. Because we really rely on our Navajo voters to let us know when you guys have problems, so that we can work with our partners at the county and state level to help address them. And so with that, I do want to just see if our Attorney General has been able to join us today, if she would like to maybe just say a few words to the public. I don't know if she has been able to. Oh, good, she has. Great, thank you, AG Branch.
Hi, Yati, everyone. Glad to be here. Shea Ethel Branchian Sheh Mipa Twitney Nishlan Nakai Bashis Chin Sitnajini Dashache Aro Nakai Dashanala and East Cannon Diablo Dit Nasha Shea Deneba Washington Bit Agatit Aitso Shananish. And it's great to be here with everyone. So excited for Catherine's presentation today. You would hope we wouldn't need a presentation for this subject, but unfortunately, particularly in the state of Arizona, there are, of course, active efforts to prevent our people from accessing the polls and voicing our views as to who elected leadership should be. So, we are having to update everyone as to recent changes. And so hopefully everyone is registered or has their pen ready to take notes on how to share with their family, how to register properly, how to maintain their registration as a voter to make sure that our voice is heard. And of course, this election, we do have a Navajo candidate on the ballot for the House of Representatives in Arizona for Navajo, Apache, and Coconino counties. So that's an exciting opportunity. And so thank you everyone for joining. And, as things come up, protecting the right to vote is very important to us. So either in the voter registration process or as you're voting in the primaries or in the general, if issues arise, please reach out to us. The DOJ number you can reach us at is 928-871-6345. Again, that's 928-871-6345. Let us know. That's to my office, and we can engage our team and mobilize and respond. We want to make sure that people aren't having any impediments to either registering to vote or exercising their right to vote, whether that's in Arizona, Utah, or New Mexico. This is something that we've been working towards very actively, and we have to protect in a vigilant manner, in real time, essentially. So we rely on all of you to let us know when there are hiccups in the system and there's a need to engage, whether that's with litigation or just a letter or a phone call to resolve issues. So, and Catherine is, of course, on the front line with all of that work and has done a wonderful job leading that the last few years. And by few years, I mean, it's been quite a while. Catherine has been working on protecting voting rights for the nation in all states, actually. So we're very fortunate to have Catherine leading the charge here. So thanks so much for putting this on today, Catherine.
Yeah, no, thank you. Really appreciate your support. We can't do, I will say, here at DOJ, we are just the lawyers, but it really takes our leaders like the Attorney General, President, and Speaker who really help, make these things a priority and push these issues forward. So we appreciate their support for our work. And so I just would, so at this time, I just want to just give a brief overview and introduction to our Arizona, because we would just like to start really on focusing on that, because as AG stated, there has been some recent changes in the laws in Arizona. It seems like every election cycle, there's a couple of new changes. So we just want to make sure everyone has up-to-date information. So in Arizona, we have our 3 counties. We have Coconino, we have Navajo County, and we have Arizona County. And so voter registration should be the same across all counties, in theory, and hopefully. So no matter where county you are registering to vote in, Maricopa, Coconino, you should hopefully have the requirements to vote should be the same. So everybody in the state of Arizona is operating under the same requirements. And then the process, how the county actually carries out the voter registration, it may be a little different for your respective county. So it is always, while we're on this call, we're very fortunate to have a representative for Navajo County with us to kind of explain what their process looks like and to provide, kind of some examples on some of these requirements and how they're carrying those out. Just remember that, if you do reside in Apache or Coconino or Maricopa County, that your county's process may be a little different. Their hours of operations may be a little different, right? And so really check your county's websites. I have found in working in this area that those county websites really provide a lot of good information on, registration. And usually, especially with our counties here in the north, our county partners we actually work very well with them. They're very open to responding to questions from voters and addressing issues that you may have. So, please feel free to reach out and use those tools. And before I turn it over to my colleague, Julianne, I just want to mention that, again, while we're going to be talking focusing a little bit more on Navajo County today, just know that the Apache County has physical locations on the Navajo Nation in Ganado, Windorak, and Chinle. No, I'm sorry, Ganado, Fort Defiance, and Chinle. And Coconino County does have an office in Tuba City. So if you are a resident of those counties and have questions about voter registration or would like to talk through those issues, you're always welcome to walk into those offices on the nation and, talk to someone there too. So we will, with that, I'm going to turn this over to my fabulous colleague, Ms. Julianne Begay, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julianne Begay. I'm a principal attorney in the Economic and Community Development Unit of the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. I am the newest attorney. I've been here about 5 months. Twitzoni Nishle, Todajitni Bashishchin, Senjakina Deshiche, Twitzoni Deshanella. I'm happy to be here and excited to talk to you all about registering to vote.
Thank you. And I'd also like to, before Julianne starts, I'd just like to also introduce our representative from Navajo County, Mr. Jose Lerman. And Jose, would you like to introduce yourself at all?
Yeah, my name is Jose Lerma. I work for Navajo County Voter Registration. I'm here today just to help answer questions. And yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right, Julianne.
Okay, I'm going to talk about, obviously the topic of this Lunch and Learn is registering to vote. And so I'm going to talk about the mechanics of how all that works and what you need to do to register, what the requirements are, things like that. So the first topic I want to address is where you can register to vote. There are several places. You can go to a website called servicearizona.com. And if you have an Arizona driver's license or if you have an Arizona ID card that's been issued by the Motor Vehicles Department, you can go to that website and register to vote. You can also register by mail, and you can mail a voter registration form to the county recorder. Just keep in mind that you should plan for at least 7 days for your ballot to get to the county recorder's office. You can also vote in person by going to your county recorder's office and filling out the voter registration form and providing all the necessary information in person. I would recommend checking your voter registration status. You can go to a website that's called my.arizona.vote. And you can look up your voter registration information there, verify whether or not you are registered to vote, verify that your current address is on file for your voter registration. So I would recommend doing that before registering for the first time or re-registering. And I just want to pause really quickly and ask a question of our Navajo County representative. Catherine briefly touched on this, but where are all of the locations that voters can drop off their voter registration forms?
Well, Navajo County only has one where they can drop off in person here at the recorder's office in Holbrook. We don't have any satellite offices for Navajo County.
Okay.
Oh, and then Jose, do you guys work with the chapters at all in regards to having voter registration forms at chapter houses?
We provide forms out to the chapter houses, so they do have them there to pick up a form.
Okay, and
but to drop one off, you would have to send it into our office.
Okay, so if they pick a voter registration form up at their chapter, they should turn it in back to the county either through mail or by dropping it off in Holbrook. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. And I just wanted to add that if you are going to register to vote by mail, just keep in mind that in order to meet the deadline to register, your registration form has to be postmarked 29 days or more before the election, and it has to be received by the county recorder by 7 p.m. on election day. Alternatively, your registration form has to be dated within 29 days or more of the election and received by the county recorder via first class mail within 5 days after the last day to register to vote.
And then Julianne, when is the Arizona primary this year?
Yeah, and that's what I want to cover next. So the deadlines to register to vote are July 1, 2024, and that's the deadline if you want to vote in the primary election. So this year's primary election is July 30th, 2024, and I just want to flag that that is a revised date. So this year's primary was originally scheduled for August 6, 2024. but that's no longer the primary date. That was recently changed, and now it's July 30th, 2024. So the deadline to register for that election is July 1, 2024. For the general election, the last day to register to vote for that is October 7th, 2024. Okay, and so next I would like to cover requirements to qualify as a registered voter in Arizona. There are a handful of requirements. First, you have to be a U.S. citizen, and you have to provide satisfactory evidence of citizenship, which I will go into more detail later on. You also have to be 18 years of age or more on the date of the regular general election following registration. So this year's general election date is November 5th, 2024. So basically you have to be 18 by that date if you want to vote in that election. And the third requirement is that you have to be a resident of the state at least 29 days before the election. And residency means that you have actual physical presence in the state plus an intent to remain in the state. So temporarily leaving the state does not cancel your residency as long as you have an intent to return to the state. The fourth requirement is that you have to be able to write your name or make a mark unless you can't do so because of a physical disability. The next two requirements are sort of prohibitions on registering to vote. So you can't register to vote if you've been convicted of treason or a felony, unless you've been restored, unless your civil rights have been restored. If you have a conviction on your record for treason or a felony, you're not allowed to vote. Also, you can't register to vote if you have been adjudicated an incapacitated person. And that means impaired by reason of a mental illness or deficiency or physical illness, among other criteria. Okay. And at this point, I want to ask a question for Jose. For people who register by mail, how do they provide their proof of residence or proof of citizenship? Do they provide copies of their identification? How do they do that?
No, they would just need to fill out the form and supply that information on the form. And if we can verify that, then we can register them.
Okay. So next, I want to dive into this requirement that you have to show satisfactory evidence of citizenship. There are several ways you can demonstrate this. One way is by providing a number on your driver's license or your non-operating identification card. You can also provide a legible photocopy of your birth certificate that verifies your U.S. citizenship. You can provide photocopies of a passport, and you can provide U.S. naturalization documents. You can provide a BAA card number, a tribal treaty card number, or tribal enrollment number. And just keep in mind that if you are registered to vote in another state or county, that is not automatic proof of your citizenship. If you've moved from another state or another county and you're re-registering to vote, you do still need to provide those documents proving your citizenship.
So Julianne, just a question that we've received from the public is that and I think you may have answered this, but can an individual provide their CIB with that number? Would that be sufficient?
Yes, the tribal enrollment number is sufficient.
All right.
Okay. So next, I want to talk about what happens if you register to vote, but you don't provide satisfactory evidence of citizenship. Let's say you fill out the form. There is a box on the form that says, are you a U.S. citizen? Check yes or no. Let's say you don't fill that out or you check no. What happens in that situation is you'll be registered to vote, but you'll only be allowed to vote in federal elections. So you'll only be allowed to vote in the elections for offices for U.S. Senator, U.S. House of Representatives, presidential races, those types of races. You won't be allowed to vote in state, county, or local elections. And you will not be eligible to receive an early ballot. But just keep in mind, this does not apply if you're an absent uniformed services voter or overseas voter.
So, sorry, Julian, I just wanted to jump in. I did have a question about this, and I wanted to, for Jose, because I know that there are a lot of voter registration drives that are occurring on the Navajo Nation. We see people doing voter registration drives that aren't, not part of the county. And I just kind of wanted to get a, kind of clarification from you when your office does receive those signatures that these drives produce, or these outside entities produce. How do you guys deal with them if they don't have these proof of residencies that Julianne's talking about?
We issue out, well, when we receive them, we'll put them into suspense, and then we will issue them a notice requesting more, either citizenship proof or proof of residency, and it's up to the voter to get us that proof. Once we receive that, we can make them a full voter.
And so I just really wanted to highlight this, because I know that this is something that as we get closer to the presidential election, we do see, historically, we have seen a rise in voter registration drives being conducted, not necessarily by the county, but by other entities. And so if you do participate in those voter registration drives, please be aware that unless you're providing these, additional documentation to the county, as Julianne stated, you're not going to be a full voter in the state of Arizona. So just really important, because I think sometimes people, if you're outside Bashas at Chinlee's and someone has you in clipboard and you sign in and you're like, oh, I'm good, I'm all done registering to vote, know that there are additional documentation that you do need to provide the county. So as Jose stated, you will be, they'll attempt to contact you, and just be aware that those communications, when you receive those communications from the county, to try to respond to them in a prompt manner so you can get that full voter, you can get that magical full ballot on election day. So thank you. Go ahead. Sorry, Julian, I don't mean to keep interrupting you.
Oh, I don't mind at all. Okay. So next, I'm going to talk about the requirement to provide proof of your location of residence. And there's a pretty long list of documents you can provide to establish this. So to prove your residence, or the location of your residence, you can provide a valid form of ID that bears your photograph, name, and address, and they have to reasonably appear to be the same as your name and address in the precinct register. The precinct register is this long list of voters that gets printed out before the election, and election officials use that to line up voter information that's provided the day of election. Like when you show up and provide your ID, they match that with the precinct register. So that's what a precinct register is. But to register, you can provide a valid form of ID. Your ID does have to bear your photograph, name, and address. However, the county recorder, this is something to keep in mind if you're a Navajo voter, the county recorder will accept your ID even if it doesn't match the voter registration form, or if your address is a PO box. So forms of ID, similar to what I listed for the citizenship requirement, you can provide an Arizona driver's license, an Arizona non-operating identification card. You can also provide a tribal enrollment card or another form of tribal ID. And just to note, the county recorder's office will accept any tribal ID, including a census card, ID card issued by a tribal government. And they'll accept that regardless of whether it contains a photo, a physical address, or if the address is a PO box, and even if it has no address. You can also provide a U.S. federal, state, or local government issued ID. If you don't have an ID that meets this criteria that I've just listed, you can provide other things. You can provide pieces of mail or other documents that contain your name and address, And if they match your information in the precinct register, then they can be used to establish the location of your residence. So those documents include utility bills, bank or credit union statements that are dated within 29 days of the election, valid Arizona vehicle registration, Arizona vehicle insurance card, a census card, a tribal enrollment card, a property tax statement, a recorder certificate, a voter registration card, or other government issued ID. If you do have a valid form of ID that has your photograph, name, or address, but it doesn't match the precinct register or it doesn't have an address, you can still provide that ID in addition to one of the items I listed previously, one of those documents that has your name and address. Additionally, just keep in mind that you cannot be denied voter registration if you do not live in a permanent, private, or fixed structure. So basically, if you're homeless, that's a reason. That's not a reason you can be denied the right to register to vote. In lieu of a physical address, you can provide the address of a homeless shelter if that's where you reside, or some other place where you reside, or a county courthouse in the county where you reside, or a general delivery address for a post office in the county where you reside. So, do Jose or Catherine, anything you want to add?
I guess just a
No, that
question.
all sounded right.
Oh, thanks. A question I just wanted to give to Jose, in regards to the residency requirement, this is the first year that you guys are that this requirement is that this is a requirement. Sorry, let me find my words here. This is the first year that people are required to show residency when they're registering to vote, correct?
Correct. If you're a new voter to Arizona, you need to provide proof of residency.
Okay. So for people who are already registered to vote with your office, do they need to provide this proof of residency?
They do not. I don't know what to call it. I would say they're grandfathered in. If they've already proved that, they do not need to prove it again.
So, just another good note for people who are, voters in Arizona, even though there is this new requirement that it only apply in regards to residency, providing proof of residency at the time of registration, it only applies to new voters. So you do not need to re-register. You don't need to provide that proof to your counties. If you've voted if you're a registered voter and have voted in past Arizona elections, you're good to go. This is just really for new voters, either moving locations or individuals who are turning 18 and voting for the first time. So no need to find that residency proof and rush it to Jose at his office in Holbrook. And then Jose, just kind of, Julianne's gone over a lot of the requirements for people when they're registering. Are there any kind of top three or just, kind of high, kind of what are the common deficiencies that you see when people are registering to vote? What are things that people just kind of really need to keep on the front burner when they're filling out this form? Sure.
Yeah, a lot of times we don't see, people leave out date of birth, socials. We do need those to run through MVD in order to make them a full voter. That's one of our big things, is not seeing those socials and date of births.
Okay. Great. So just a little reminder, you guys, when you're filling out those forms, make sure you got that social, make sure you've got that date of birth on there so that you can get your voter registration finalized. All right.
Right.
Julianne?
Okay. I just have a few more topics to cover. So what I've gone over so far is just the very basic general requirements in order to register to vote. So next I want to go over what happens if you move let's say you're registered to vote in a county, it's, I don't know, 20 days before the election, and you move out of the county or out of the state. What happens in that scenario? So if you move out of the state after the 30th day before the election, you can still vote in the presidential election in the precinct that you moved from, and you can vote by early ballot in that situation. If you move to a different county within the state, within the 29 days before the election, you remain a resident of the county that you moved from until the day after the election. So you can still vote in that county that you moved from. I will say if you do, lastly, if you do move within the county where you are registered to vote, you do have to re-register with your county recorder, or let's say you don't notify your county recorder in time, you can go to your correct polling place. That's the correct polling place for your new address, and you can provide an identification with your new address and affirm in writing your new residence. And if you do that, you will be allowed to vote a provisional ballot. Okay. Next, I want to address when you have to re-register. So basically, if you move, let's say you move out of the county to a different county within the state, you will have to re-register with the county recorder's office in your new county. If you want to change your political party affiliation, you do need to re-register. And also, if you change your name and you want to be registered to vote under your new name, you'll need to re-register to vote in that situation. Let's see. And lastly, I want to go over situations where your voter registration can be canceled. So your voter registration can be canceled if you ask the county recorder to cancel your registration. So upon your request. If you pass away, that's a situation where your voter registration will be canceled. If you've been adjudicated incapacitated and the county recorder's office receives notice of this, say they receive a judgment where a judge has adjudicated you incapacitated, your registration will be canceled in that scenario. If you get convicted of a felony, and let's say you appeal that, but it doesn't get set aside or it doesn't get reversed, then in that situation, your voter registration will be canceled. The county recorder's office does periodically receive a list of individuals who've been convicted of felonies. And so that's how they are notified that someone has been convicted of a felony and their registration needs to be canceled. If a judgment is issued directing the cancellation of your voter registration, that's another scenario that can lead to cancellation. If you move within your county, but you don't register to vote in your new county within 29 days of receiving notice from the county recorder, that may cause cancellation of your registration. If you don't vote 4 years in a row, or if you don't vote for 2 general elections for federal office, that's another situation where your registration can be canceled.
Thanks, Julianne. So, Jose, how do I notify you after I pass away of my death? How do I go about doing that?
Well, your family really needs to send in either a copy of your death certificate, or we can send you out your family out a notice. We call it a deceased notice. We send to your family, and they can fill that out and send it in, and we can remove you from the voter rolls.
Okay. And then we did get a question here in our chat about, can people use, if they don't have a permanent residence, can they use their chapter house as their address for the purposes of voter registration?
You cut out. Say that one more time.
Oh, if someone doesn't have an address, can they use the chapter house address as for the purposes of voter registration?
Chapter house, no. They would have to list on the voter registration form that they're homeless, and then we would put them at the local justice of the peace.
And then for Navajo County, one of the reasons, I guess I should say one of the reasons, counties want to know where your residence is also to determine what precinct you're in, right? So for Ocamino and Apache County, your residence will determine the precinct location, and then the precinct, and then that is where you vote, right? So in Apache County, it's all precinct voting. So whatever precinct you're in, you have to vote in that precinct. However, Navajo County is a little bit different, and I thought maybe you could explain the difference a little bit for purposes of, when people register to vote, do they get a precinct number, and what does that mean to them on election day?
So yes, it's very important that you give us your correct address so that you do get the correct ballot. For Navajo County, we are not precinct based on election day. We are called vote centers. So you could go anywhere in Navajo County and vote your ballot. I live in Holbrook, and I could go all the way to Kayenta and vote a Holbrook ballot in Kayenta.
Right. So this is just something, this is one of the differences too in our counties. So when you are doing that voter registration and you are providing that residence, it's not just, for the purpose of the Arizona law requirement, but the counties are also looking at that residence to determine what precinct you're going into. But based on what county you're in, that will play a different role for you on election day. So as Jose stated, in Navajo County, doesn't matter what precinct you're in, you can vote at any vote center location. But for our Coconino and Apache County listeners, just an FYI, when that residence that you provide with your voter registration and the proof of residence that you provide, that's going to determine your precinct that you're in. You'll get you will get your precinct number as when they send you your card, your election card, voting card. And that's where you are required in Apache County, especially. That's where you are supposed to go to vote on election day. So if you try to vote outside in a different precinct, they shouldn't, but you may hear, oh, well, you're registered in a different precinct. However, if you do, getting a little off topic, if you do hear that, they should give you an option to vote at a voting machine behind them. And if they don't, let me know. I want to know that. But anyway, just to know, that's why, whatever residents you do provide the voter registration, just important to remember that, because when election day comes, that's, if you've moved, as Julianne stated, that could affect your voting experience. Julianne, did you have anything to add to that?
Nope, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. So in regards to Jose, for people who are, let's say, English isn't their first language when they're going through the registration process, what kind of Navajo language services or interpretation do you guys provide for voters who are attempting to register who may not have who may have Navajo as their first language?
Well, we don't have any Navajo language voter registration forms. You can contact our office, and we do have Navajo speaking outreach who can help, but we don't supply an actual form from our office with Navajo language.
So if someone does need interpretation services, they need to call the county recorder's office in Holbrook. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And again, just to note a little difference, if you do need translation services or assistance, you can also call the county recorders in Coconino and Apache, but they also have offices located on the nation. So if someone feels that they need in-person translation assistance with their voter registration form, you can always go to those offices in Tuba City, Chinle, Ganado, and Fort Defiance. And Jose, let's say you're a Navajo County voter, but you are who's trying to register to vote, right? can you go utilize those services in the other counties to assist you with your voter registration form, even though Tuba City is not a Navajo county? Oh,
I'm
you may
sure
have-
you can. We all work together to register people.
So just know that you don't necessarily, you can always seek assistance from other county recorders to assist you with your voter registration form, even if they're not in the county that you may live in. And I do want to note that Julianne did state that 7 days is kind of our rule of thumb in regards to getting your voter registration mailed in. I would even go so far as to say 10 days. If you really want to be super duper safe, all our counties kind of use their mail goes through different routes. So especially just to note for our Apache County voters, your mail probably takes the most extensive route in getting to St. John's, where your county recorder office is located. So if you do mail in your registration, know that your ballot will go to Gallup, to Albuquerque, to Phoenix, to Sholo, then to St. John. So, based on that, we saw this a lot during COVID, right? Where people on the nation really started to utilize more of the mail services, both for registration and for voting. So just know that if you are trying to register to vote and you're trying to send in that registration form and you want to make sure it gets in before the deadline, you probably want to say 7's good, 10's probably even safer. So just to kind of put that on people's radar. And then, so I think we did, just looking at some of the other questions in the chat, it does look like we've responded to some of them, but also as Jose stated, and I think I may have stated, all the counties' voter registration requirements are the same. So no matter if you're in Navajo or Cocamino or Apache or Maricopa, they're all going to have the same requirements. It's just kind of hours of operation, so a little bit. So I guess, Jose, I don't know, did you state when is the Holbrook office open, in case people did want to visit you in person and chat you up? Oh, we may have lost him. Connectivity on the nation is a real thing. So, just, okay. So just make sure that, you can check your,
Did you ask a question?
Oh yeah. Sorry, Jose. Can you hear us? We lost you there for a bit.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. We were just asking when the office in Holbrook was open for people if they did want to come and drop off their registration forms.
Yeah, we're open 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. There's always somebody here.
Right. Yeah. And again, yeah. And so just as a comparison, I think Apache County, their office isn't open on Fridays. So make sure that you guys kind of check before you do, if you do want to visit your county recorder office in St. John, Flagstaff, or Holbrook, that, definitely recommend Googling to make sure that when the office is open, so you don't do a long drive and then no one's there. And then, Jose, do you guys ever do any voter registration drives or outreach on the nation so that people maybe who aren't able to get to Holbrook can see you at?
Yeah, we do. We do have a voter outreach person in our office who does voter registration drives throughout the year. She's always out there in her trailer. So I'm sure you guys see her at bashes, at flea markets, at festivals. Right now we're in the middle of doing a high school drive. So we're going out to the high schools in Navajo County and getting those kids registered.
Great. So just, you guys, you guys, if you guys can't make it to Holbrook, or you want to, and you do want to rather feel more comfortable doing your registration in person, keep your eyes open. I know all the counties do these outreach and usually are at different flea markets in Tuba City and Chinle and whatnot. So our county, and I think they, if my memory serves me right, they usually will always post these drives too on their websites and try to let people know, or they'll also be on, some of the counties will be on KTNN and report when they're going to be at different events. So, if you feel, sometimes I know people feel more comfortable handling their registration in person rather than mailing in it. And so those are some good on reservation opportunities for you to do that. And then I think I cannot stress enough what Julianne has also stated in regards to, check, just check the website, make sure that, call the county, really try to confirm once you've sent, either if you've sent in your registration, that they've received it, that there aren't any issues. And I think, Julianne, did you state can you maybe either state or restate the website that people can go check that registration out just one more time?
Yeah, it's my.arizona.vote.
Yeah. And so that really, if you guys are like, I don't know if I'm registered, I don't know what precinct I'm in, this will give you that information. And then if you're like, I registered at that, I signed a piece of paper in Chinle at Basha's like 5 months ago. Did that work? Did it go anywhere? This is a great website for you guys to be able to check, to be like, where am I in the process? And if sometimes, especially because we do have some mailing issues on our end, not our particular end, I guess USPS's end, getting us mail. This is a good chance too to see if maybe the county's been trying to reach out to you in regards to some issues that need to be corrected. Going out that website should be able to give you an idea of what's going on with it. So I think that may be it on our end. Jose, I don't know, do you have anything else that you just would like to add for our Navajo citizens here to think about when they're registering, or things that they should remember?
No, just our county recorder really likes for people to know that if they do receive mail at their residence that it's not for them, that they return it to our office so we can start the process of removing that voter from the voter rolls. It's very important.
Mm-hmm.
It just helps out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and then Julianne, any last kind of thoughts on your end?
Not anything else to add, just reiterating again what you've already said, to check your voter registration before re-registering or filling out registration forms, just to verify your information.
Mm-hmm. And I guess my just last comment too is just to say, in regards to if people are experiencing any problems with the registration process, and like we've stated, this is the first year that people are going to be registering where this residential requirement is being put into effect, that we at the Department of Justice would like to hear about those experiences. We definitely want to continue to monitor this to make sure all of this is going as smooth as possible for our Navajo citizens. And if you guys do find you're running into trouble, either with the documents that you're providing or just in any kind of conversations that you're having, please let us know. And AG Branch did provide the information for that, and we'd be happy to try to help work with the counties to address any issues that may be rising. So really want to thank everybody for their time today, and hopefully everyone is able to have a very smooth Arizona voter registration process. And I'll hand the mic back to our Attorney General here.
Great. Thanks so much, Catherine and team. So awesome to have those wonderful guests joining us today. I just want to encourage everyone to go ahead and register to vote, turn out for the primary and the general elections. Even though it may feel like things don't always go our way in the various legislatures, particularly in the state of Arizona, there is continuing influence that comes with the Navajo vote. And that allows us greater influence in the governor's office. We're experiencing that right now in our water rights negotiations. And it gives us influence with elected leaders in Congress to make issues that are important to the Navajo people get on their radar and influence their decisions on how they act with respect to those issues. So even though it might not feel at an individual level like your vote matters, it really does matter in terms of giving the Navajo Nation's elected leaders and public officials influence with elected leaders at the state, federal, county, even at the municipal level. So I just want to say, your vote does matter. And even though you may not feel it on a daily basis, it really does have an impact when you turn out at the polls. And over time, just seeing the number of voters, the level of activity in our communities in terms of turning out for the vote, it's just really phenomenal. And we're seeing the balance tip in terms of the influence, right? In all of these counties, our population continues to grow. Our voter turnout improves over time. Our votes continue to grow. And at some point, we will be in a position to make that decision in terms of our choice as to who leads these regions at all different levels. But it's coming from the discipline of registering to vote and consistently turning out, making sure your friends and family members are registered to vote and are turning out. So at a certain point, our voice will no longer be able to be ignored. And we're feeling that now, right? We're feeling that greater influence. And over time, we're going to have greater control over what happens. But that's only because of you and you registering to vote and turning out for the polls and making sure that the Navajo voice is continuing to grow louder and louder. So thank you everyone for listening today and for doing what you can at an individual level to make a difference by registering to vote and turning out. So thank you so much. And thanks so much, Catherine, for leading today's presentation.
Thank you.